One spoon Johnny Pettygoo loved the soup folks called burgoo. He could hardly wait to see that blessed time of year when he would fill his tummy with the stew. "I love this stuff," said Pettygoo. Burgoo, it's known from town to town, is a sort of green and sort of brown and sort of nearly everything that makes a small boy's stomach sing. It's taters, naters, beets and beef and pork and onions, sour and sweet, and things that creep and things that crawl and things with hardly any name at all. Everything with legs or knees ends up in their recipes, and if it has 4 legs or 10, it soon becomes ingredients for gallons, kettles, tons of soup, that luscious, scrumptious, gluptious gloop. 'Twas rumored there inside the town that if you left your pet around and didn't watch what he would do, he'd somehow end up in the stew. No, the cooks weren't cannibalistic, merely weirdly realistic. It was the only way, they say, to rid the town of runaways. One spoon Johnny Pettygoo was headed toward the town's burgoo. But before he up and went, he stepped outside to feed his pets. Johnny had a dog that barked and a one-eyed cat named Clark. But this was strange. No barking hound, and Clark was nowhere to be found. Johnny murmured, "What's the deal? Never had they missed a meal." But then he sighed, "No need to fret, perhaps they've joined some other pets. With all the hubbub in the town, no doubt they're somewhere running round, excited by the town's burgoo. At least, that's what I now shall do." This, thought Johnny, made good sense, and so he took his one utensil uptown where the park was teeming. Kids were shouting. Soup was steaming. Then dear Johnny grabbed a bowl of what he'd waited for, and lo, the soup was just as he had dreamed. Chocked with beef and corn and beans, slabs of ham, and then, oh my, a meat hard to identify. His spoon stabbed something quite peculiar, something rather familiar. It had a look like none he'd tried, something that he'd seen last night, something that he loved and owned, floating there among the bones. "My pets," he shouted in the park, "my darling dog and poor old Clark." He spit, he spat, he sputtered, he spewed. His eyes turned green, his face turned blue. He coughed and gagged and choked and sweat. "My gosh," he said, "I ate my pets." As he was sinking beneath his chair, gasping for a bit of air, he heard the sound of something he had heard before. What could it be? 'Twas coming from the Ferris wheel, right up there atop of the hill. His little dog and dear old Clark were riding gaily in the park. They thought that John was surely joking, lying on the ground and choking. They waved, they smiled, they shouted, "Hey, come and have some fun. Let's play." And Johnny looked into his bowl and saw this thing that laid him low. His fear had finally turned out phony, as Johnny muttered, "Oh, baloney."